All right, we'll get started as more people show up. Welcome, my name is Corinne Waldow. I'm the Senior Director for Economic Vitality at the Boulder Chamber. I want to thank you for joining us for this week's special session on how to deal with masks, especially when you're interacting with the consumers or the public. I'm going to hand it over to Jesse Rounds at this time. Please ask your questions throughout the session. Hopefully we give you the tools necessary to have those conversations and to understand when masks are required in our county and in our state. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Corinne. I'm actually going to turn my camera off because I'm already getting laggy. So, and then I will speak up. So I promise to speak up. So starting off, what we're going to go over is a little bit of good news about masks in Boulder County. And then I want to just go over, the public health order and how that interacts with the mask order. Then we'll dive into some detail about the mask order, and then happy to answer questions. And I definitely feel like that's where we can be really helpful, is addressing specific questions about the mask order. So just to start out, there we go. And anybody who was on the previous session saw these slides already, but I think it's really, it's a bit of good news that we're seeing in the county. Last month, our public health department did a sentinel survey where they sent volunteers to various locations throughout the county in municipalities and outside the municipalities, looking at mask compliance. Were people wearing masks in these spaces? As you can see, the fourth column there, the percent of persons observed wearing a mask in everywhere but parks was really good. And the parks thing is pretty easy to explain. The volunteers weren't asked to make sure that everyone who wasn't wearing or was wearing a mask was 6 feet, closer than 6 feet. So they weren't looking at that exact, like, how far apart was everyone in the park. So they were just looking at how crowded is it and were they wearing masks. That's a complexity they hope to add in the future as they work on this model over time. But the big thing is small, medium, and large locations, various types of locations, we're seeing high compliance levels. And that's also true by city. We're seeing really high compliance, and this number excludes parks, but it's really it's a really good thing. So I just want to start out with on a congratulatory note. I think that's really good. That doesn't mean we should slow down or change. I think trying to maintain this level of compliance is really important for the long term. In terms of the public health order, we received an updated version, the 9th revision, on Friday, and that was basically just updating the language in the order to be in line with the statewide facial covering order, clarifying those situations where the order said it didn't say shall, it said should, or something like that for wearing a face covering. It now says if you are in a indoor public space, you need to be wearing a facial covering. Again, statewide face covering order, it was instituted on July 16th. It is still set to expire on the 16th of August. However, we expect it to be extended. The countywide face covering order, which is in line with the state's order, is in place indefinitely. And then the local face covering orders, I put that on there really to remind businesses that they need to be checking to make sure that that you're complying with your local face covering order as well as the countywide and statewide orders. Again, everyone over the age of 10 must wear a mask. Indoors in public spaces, that's the state order, and our order also says that, but on top of that, it adds outdoors. If social distancing cannot be maintained. So if you cannot be sure you're never going to be closer than 6 feet, you need to be wearing a mask. I may have made multiple negatives in that sentence that may have gotten confusing. You need to wear a mask if you can't maintain social distancing. That's the easier way to put it. Please. For businesses, you need to post a sign out front of your business. And that's true of offices. That's true of every public space needs to post signs outdoors. I also recommend posting them indoors. Remind people they need to be wearing a mask. You can, as a business owner, provide alternatives to those who can't or won't wear a mask. You can provide them, but you also have the right to deny service to anyone who can't or won't wear a mask. And if I recommend reading the civil rights guidance that's available on the state's website about that. It's really there to protect you and your employees and your other customers. And we really encourage you to, if you can't provide alternatives, to really consider, is it safe to have people without masks in your business? So just think through that. We also do encourage you to find alternatives: online ordering, curbside delivery, all those sorts of things are ways to address someone who won't or can't wear a mask. I wanted to provide these, and sorry, the graphics is a little squished, on our website, boco.org/COVID-19, I believe. But if you go to our website, bouldercounty.org, and look for the COVID-19 banner at the top, you can find these graphics. And the reason I wanted to provide these, and we have them for all the various sectors, for employees as well as for customers. And the reason I wanted to provide these in this graphic was, you need to be wearing a mask. It's required everywhere. Customers outdoors, it says customers, that's really just people outdoors, don't necessarily have to wear a mask, but it is recommended. But everywhere else, it's required. At the state level, at the county level, in most municipalities, it is also required. And you'll note down at the bottom here, the restaurants, when not eating or drinking, in other words, when you're walking to or from your seat, when you're picking up an order, when you're going to the bathroom, you need to be wearing a mask. With that, just a reminder that, the activities you choose, the areas you choose to go to, carry risk with them, and you just need to be aware of the choices you're making and how that is changing your risk profile. And also those riskier areas, think about how often you need to clean those spaces, how much you need to ensure that people are wearing masks. It's really important. In terms of how we can help, we want to share information like these webinars. We want to help interpret orders. We want to be there for you when you have an outbreak to discuss how to resolve this. And then the resources that we can provide. If you go to our website, if you go to the CDPHE website, covid19.colorado.gov, those are ways to get that information. And I included these in the last presentation as well. I think it's just, we need to keep reminding ourselves and everyone of these things. If you wash your hands, if you physically distance, if you wear a mask, and you monitor your health, you can help reduce transmission between individuals. And then as a community, we need to follow these orders. And I'm very happy with the, that data we got from the Sentinel survey. It's not infallible, but it is a really great piece of news. Just, common Q&A, can you provide guidance on mask enforcement? Yes, we can. If you are having trouble as a business owner, please contact us. We have lots of resources on our website. We have tools you can use. There's guidance from the state. Our attorneys are backing us up and trying to help us interpret that guidance so that we can help you understand where you need to go. In terms of what do you do with if you have a sick employee, you do not need to close. We're not closing everyone down who gets a sick employee. There's outbreak guidance. There are tools you can use. There are ways to protect the employees that need to continue to come to work that I think, talk to us and we can help. And then, do I have to wear a mask in an office? I put this in the last presentation and we still had questions about it. So I put it in this one too. And yes, if you're in an office, you need to wear a mask. Then just to close out, please come to our general update sessions if you have questions. We're going to try, in the future, I will try and highlight some specific industry guidance in each session so that there's some, reminder of those things. And then we'll announce a special session if we need one each week. And then the Spanish language session in collaboration with our Latino chamber. It's released on Thursdays, and they also answer specific questions during that. So if you want to sign up for those, go to the link at the bottom of the page there. And that's our contact information. If you have questions, contact us through our email. If you have complaints or concerns about a specific business or an area you saw or a behavior you saw, you can contact the call center at that number between 9 and 2 Monday to Friday. And that's it. Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Jesse. So probably know the first two questions I'm going to ask you, but can you define public spaces?
Yes.
Because the mask order is, it's confusing for some people because when you say public spaces, my office doesn't feel like a public space. So what does public space really mean under the mask order?
So instead of reading it like I did last time, I'm just going to pick out some specific details. It means any enclosed indoor space that is publicly or privately owned and is accessed by individuals by invitation expressed or implied. And if it's accessible to the public, serves as a place of employment, or is an entity providing public services. So that's any office. Any place where you're in a space with people who are not related to you is an indoor public space. And the caveats to that are your house is not a public indoor space, motel and hotel rooms are not an indoor public space, and a dorm room is not an indoor public space.
How are we enforcing the mask rules? Are we relying heavily on the businesses? But what's the enforcement mechanism?
So the way that the order is written at the state level, it is on the business to police the customers coming into their business. It's your responsibility to make sure that everyone coming in is wearing a mask. We are happy to, we will reach out to businesses where we've heard from customers that people aren't wearing masks. We're happy to talk to businesses that are having trouble maintaining or complying with the mask order. But it is really the responsibility of the business to adhere to the public mask order, public facial covering order.
So we have a lot of businesses that interact with a lot of the public, whether it be a restaurant or personal services or retail. So they're on the front lines of these mask orders. What happens when someone, there's some controversy around masks for some people. What happens when someone is belligerent? Or I know that you have the script, but what are some of the things that businesses are doing when they talk to individuals that don't want to wear a mask?
Absolutely, it's a good question. I think the easiest thing that you can do is to talk to your employees about that interaction, because we know that a lot of times it's an individual server or it's your greeter who is having this interaction, and they're not trained to have those interactions. And so it's really important to have that conversation with your staff about how to do this and what it means. I also think it's really important to set a policy. If you as a business feel like you do not want to serve people who are not wearing masks, make that clear. Make that clear to your employees, make that clear to your customers. A clear policy that's written, posted is going to help a lot. And then that script that we wrote a while ago still holds true. If you can provide alternative services, you know, we've heard about people saying, you know, I have a medical condition, but I still want to, you know, do yoga. And there are places that are setting up in a separate room for one person a video feed so that they can do yoga. That seems above and beyond, but if that's how you feel like you can best serve your community, I totally understand. But you can provide alternative services. You can, if you're a retail business, you can do curbside pickup. That's also true for food service. So there are options, but I think it's really important to set a policy as a business and run with it. And Lane and Corinne, if you have ideas, that's sort of how I've been advising people. But
it's unfortunately challenging, but you know, the best thing that we can advise is not to really escalate a situation. If somebody really doesn't want to wear masks, you know, say, hey, that's really fine. Unfortunately, you can't come into our business. So, and then you can go into whatever accommodations you have. So if you're a restaurant, if you have delivery or carry out services, you know, those are options that you can give. If you have other curbside pickup, whatever it is, you know, but to engage and try to change their ideology is not likely going to happen. So you just have to kind of really stick to a pretty simple script. If you're a restaurant, you know, the people who work in the restaurant don't get to choose whether they wash their hands. They don't get to choose whether they're going to cook your burger to the right temperature or your chicken to the right temperature. They're required to. So it isn't an option where we just start letting people opt what safety things they want to choose and what things they don't want to. So we know this is a very simple thing that people can do to help prevent this disease. So it isn't an opt-in or opt-out.
So one more clarifying question, Jesse. In the order, it talks about when you're moving around public spaces. Does that mean when I'm sitting behind a desk and I'm sitting behind that desk, I can take it off?
No. The order was clarified. It's been interpreted by CDPHE and by the governor and by Boulder County to mean if you are inside, sitting down doesn't matter, behind a cubicle wall doesn't matter. If you are inside a public space, then you need to be wearing a mask.
In plexiglass, that's not a good enough barrier to take away a mask?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we were talking before this. If you're a detail about plexiglass, if you have an office that is 4 plexiglass walls and a door, then that's fine. Or if your interaction, you might be able to get away with. If you're in a booth that has plexiglass all the way around it and just a door, you're fine. But those openings are what make it a problem. In most cases, that plexiglass has holes in it so that you can exchange things between you and the customer, and that's what makes it a permeable barrier that you need to be wearing a mask.
Well, and plexiglass in those situations is recommended because you're less than 6 feet when you're making that transaction, and there needs to be some sort of conversing between the person, you know,
Absolutely.
checking you out and and you as a customer. So it's just giving a little bit more barrier. So you're behind 4 walls and a door by yourself, and the door is closed. You can take off your mask?
Yes, but be aware that not everybody knocks. Have that mask close by. I think Lane said it in the last session. Take your mask with you everywhere. Have a mask with you. It's just going to make life a lot easier if you make it a habit to have it with you.
Yeah, I was joking in the last session. I have this new list of things I check my family. Do you have your car keys? Do you have your wallet? Did you brush your teeth? Do you have your mask? I mean, we're all. It's becoming part of our culture that we do that.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions out there? I'm thinking of some of the commonly asked mask questions. When do you foresee the mask order to end?
We don't see the Boulder County mask order ending. We know that currently there is an end date for the state order that hopefully will be extended, maybe even further clarified and streamlined. But I think Jesse has said this week in and week out, the mask order is going to be in place until we have a vaccine or other large immunity across our population. So we're very far from that.
So we should be prepared to have a mask for a while, especially, and it may be a common practice in the future after COVID to wear one when you're ill, if you have to leave your house. I'm just waiting to see if there's any other questions out there. Do you have any final thoughts about, masks, communicating masks, just generally, we hear businesses say, well, I heard that you don't have to wear it here. Where should they check before they make a decision or a policy change or even announce it to their customers?
That's a really good question. There's covid19.colorado.gov. That's the state's website. But even write us, call us. We can let you know if there's been a change. Our website also has that information. We've definitely had a number of situations where people have said, well, we heard something, and check. Definitely look for multiple sources.
So if you're going to a dentist's office and that person behind the desk isn't wearing a mask because they say, oh, I don't have to wear when I'm sitting at a desk. To the opposite, where you own a business, you heard a rumor, you announce it to your customers, oh, good news, we don't have to wear a mask, and then you have to retract that. It's probably better to ask the question than it is to go either of those routes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so right now the key theme is, when in doubt, bring it out. If you're indoors, wear a mask. If you can't socially distance in the outdoors, wear a mask. Make sure you know the requirements for your business, and people are watching. Your customers, your employees, and even other people are watching and commenting. So we can't just assume that everybody is okay with not wearing a mask around you. It's the law, and there are people that are very uncomfortable with others that aren't wearing masks. I bet you guys get a lot of those calls.
Yes.
Like just the fact that I'm a chamber and I get those calls means that the public health department's getting a lot of those calls. And it is from employees, it is from the public, and it is from people that aren't even part of any of those groups that are watching. So. All right, well, I'm going to let you two off the hook at this point. We have a nice recorded session on the commonly asked questions around masks. We have some great resources on the mask guidance, the frequently asked questions, the script. And as always, email covidbiz@bouldercounty.org before making any changes if you've heard something. And also, if you have any questions, it's a good place to ask. They will route it to the right person. Have a great rest of your week, Lane and Jesse, and thank you again for continuing to have these sessions for our business community.
You too. Thank you, Corinne.
Thank you
And
both.
thanks, Lane.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.